We have reached a new era.
Hello, wealth tycoons. Carlos Ghosn is a genius in the business world who can do anything anywhere. Wherever he went, wherever he worked, he changed everything in that company and took it to another level. From being a genius kid to going to jail for the decisions he took, everything changed. How? What really happened? And how Carlos created a different universe for himself and conquered it. This video is going to tell you everything about it. Stay with us till the end to find everything about Ghosn. So, let's get started. Carlos Ghosn's story begins on March 9, 1954, in the busy Brazilian town of Porto Velho, which is surrounded by the Amazon jungle and full of exciting things to do. Carlos was born to parents from Lebanon, and his childhood was full of different experiences that eventually shaped him. Like many brave travelers, his family had left Lebanon to find work and riches in Brazil, where there was samba, sports, and lots of chances. However, life was not all sunshine and warm vibes for them. Carlos was 6 years old and his family moved back to Lebanon. They had no idea that this restless young boy, who was already used to crossing borders and cultures, was bound for a life that would make most people envious of him. When he was older, he was in charge of global companies and would jump from country to country like he was playing corporate hopscotch. Carlos got back on his feet in Lebanon. He was not like other kids. He did not just do well in school, he did exceptionally well. Carlos was not the type to spend all day reading. He had an uncanny ability to solve problems and think big. His teachers probably had his name saved as Future Genius. Not exaggerating, but this man could solve any Rubik's Cube in record time if there was one. Who wouldn't think of such a kid to treat the sky as his playground? People did notice how smart he was. Carlos saved up money and got a plane ticket to France to go to the École Polytechnique, which is one of the best engineering schools in the world. It is a place where the smartest people get together to plan the future. Carlos would stand out like a rock among gems. However, this was not enough for him. After doing well at École Polytechnique, he went straight to the equally prestigious École des Mines, where he got even better at engineering and fixing problems. Carlos Ghosn made a big splash when he entered the business world after finishing. He joined Michelin in 1978. We are, in fact, talking about the tire business. And tires might not sound like the most exciting thing, but Ghosn made them into the stuff of office legends. Not only was he in charge of rubber and tread, but he also turned around whole businesses with the skill of a stage magician who could pull rabbits, doves, and maybe even a whole car out of his hat. Sounds like an extraordinary man, right? Well, clearly he was. Ghosn showed right away that he was not going to mess around. In South America, Michelin was having a hard time because of hyperinflation, terrible logistics, and a suffering workforce. Carlos didn't run away when they saw what was going on, but most people would have. He jumped right into the job, packed his bags, and moved to Brazil. The best part is that he didn't even speak Portuguese at first. He didn't let that factor affect his efficiency. He learned the language on the job. Ghosn dealt with hyperinflation like a financial superhero, coming up with ways to keep costs low and keep workers motivated. At a time when many businesses were failing because of the economy, Michelin did very well. By the time he left South America, Ghosn was not just a boss. He was Michelin's go-to person for solving problems, like a first responder in the business world. If a business unit was not making any progress, you would call Carlos. When the 1990s came around, Michelin North America became Ghosn's next task. Think of Carlos as the grandmaster of a business game. He was in charge of one of the trickiest things Michelin had ever done, combining its business with Uniroyal Goodrich. It was not enough to just shake hands and sign papers. There were cultural clashes, logistical problems, and financial risks all over the place during the merger, making it feel like putting together a huge jigsaw piece. Ghosn handled everything perfectly, showing that he was capable enough to take on big projects and smart enough to see them through to the end. If I had been around him, I would have also looked up to this guy for my life issues as well. However, by the end, Michelin North America had become a strong, well-run organization. Carlos Ghosn didn't just work his way up at Michelin. He turned every problem into a chance to do something great, which made him famous as a business genius. His time at Michelin taught him a lot about being strong, flexible, and a good leader. It also set the stage for his next big adventure in the world of cars. This is where the story of Carlos Ghosn picks up speed, It was 1999, and Renault had just bought a majority stake in Nissan, a Japanese car company that was in very bad shape. How bad did things get? Nissan had a huge amount of debt, was not working efficiently, and was losing a lot of money. $6 billion just in the last year. The business was in so much trouble that it looked like it would have to go bankrupt. Here comes Carlos Ghosn, Renault's secret weapon, who was sent to Japan like a corporate superhero to save the day. Ghosn, an executive from Lebanon, Brazil, and France, this time landed in Japan, which has one of the most complex and deeply rooted business cultures in the world. Businesses in Japan, especially back then, valued peace, agreement, and job security for life. How does Ghosn, who is known for cutting costs without any fuss, fit into this? That's right, it was like a bull in a china shop, but in a good way. Hey, if you are having fun watching this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It will be a real appreciation for our efforts. Let us now get back to the topic. Besides not being able to speak Japanese or bow properly, he also didn't waste time with pointless committee meetings. He instead walked in with his usual mix of confidence, a razor-sharp plan, and what we might call swagger powered by PowerPoint. He had a clear goal: to save Nissan at all costs, even if it meant stepping on a few toes, or more correctly, shaking Japan's corporate culture to its core. That was a lot of work that Ghosn did with the Nissan revival plan. In Japan at the time, it was unheard of for someone to shut down companies that weren't making money. It was terrible, but he had to cut 21,000 jobs. He also sold Nissan shares in its Keiretsu, which was a traditional web of companies that were tied together to show trust and loyalty. But for Nissan, these stakes didn't mean anything in terms of money. They were let go by Ghosn right away. A lot of people in Japan thought Ghosn's way was shocking, even religious. Protecting jobs was very important, and breaking Keiretsu ties was almost impossible. But his plan worked, very impressively. Nissan went from losing a lot of money to making a lot of money in just 2 years. When 2001 came around, the business was back in the black, and its operating profit margin was the best in the car industry. After that, things went crazy. Not only did Carlos Ghosn save Nissan, he became a huge star. Ghosn was seen by everyone in Japan, a country where executives generally stay out of the public eye. His story was told in manga books, action figures, and even a TV show. How many CEOs can say that they're immortalized in Japanese pop culture? Not only did Ghosn's bravery and smarts save Nissan, but they also changed what a CEO could do. He showed that breaking rules, and maybe even some traditions, could lead to amazing things. In Japan, he was the business outsider who brought Nissan back to life. This was just another part of Carlos Ghosn's long and interesting life, and everyone was excited to see what he did next. Carlos Ghosn was not just juggling balls by 2005, he was also juggling bowling pins across 2 countries on a tightrope. Imagine being in charge of one Fortune 500 company is like being in charge of a 5-star hotel during dinner rush. Now picture running 2 of these kinds of places in 2 different countries, each with its own menu, staff, and odd ways of managing. That was Ghosn, who was in charge of both Renault in France and Nissan in Japan, like it was any other Tuesday. The best part is that he did more than just keep both businesses running, he made them grow. The Renault-Nissan alliance grew into a world auto giant under his direction. There will be billions of dollars in sales and millions of cars will be made. If the auto business had a Hall of Fame, Ghosn would have already chosen the best place for his picture to go. But Ghosn was not happy with just being successful. He wants to change the rules. Ghosn was a big fan of the Nissan Leaf long before Tesla made electric cars a Silicon Valley buzzword. This wasn't an idea car made to look good at auto shows. It was a real mass-market EV that was meant to make electric driving easy for everyone. Sure, some people didn't believe him at first, but Ghosn saw what would happen and put a lot of money into it. Because of the Leaf, Nissan was ahead of the curve in the EV race. By 2016, Ghosn still was not done making waves in the car world. He also planned another big move, which was to include Mitsubishi. With Renault, Nissan, and now Mitsubishi all part of the same partnership, Ghosn built a monster that could compete with any car company in the world. It wasn't just business. It was an empire building on a scale that has rarely been seen. It was the very top of Carlos Ghosn's success at this point. People saw him as a prophet, a hero, and a man who could do anything. His picture was all over magazines, his name was linked to success, and business schools studied the way he led people. Ghosn was not just a CEO, he was a worldwide figure who showed that big ideas and unwavering determination could change an entire business. There is a twist in every hero's story, and for Carlos Ghosn, it happened in 2018. Not the happy kind where the hero saves the day. This was the kind where everything goes wrong. People were calling this person a corporate savior because he turned around not one but two global car giants. Suddenly, he was accused of lying about his income and misusing company funds at Nissan. It was like seeing Superman get pulled over for crossing the street, but with a lot more mess. Ghosn's arrest in Tokyo shocked almost everyone. Japan's government swooped in and took him to a detention center before anyone could say corporate intrigue. The man who used to run boardrooms was now locked up in a small cell, wearing a jail uniform instead of a fancy suit. Ghosn insisted he was innocent, saying the charges were made up by Nissan leaders who were afraid of his next big move, which was a possible merger between Nissan and Renault. Ghosn didn't think the jail was a five-star hotel. The Japanese legal system is known for being very strict. The rate of guilt is so high that it makes a basketball free throw look easy. Ghosn was in jail for months, being questioned and trying to clear his name. It was not just a court case. The whole world was caught up in the drama. The press had a great time. On one side, Ghosn was seen as the poster child for corporate greed, a wealthy executive who had finally been brought down to earth. On the other hand, some people thought he was a victim caught in a web of dirty politics and business betrayal. There were power battles, rumors of plots, and a fall from grace that was so dramatic it could have been written for a Hollywood thriller. Not only did Ghosn's arrest hurt his image, but it also made him a symbol of how East and West are clashing in global business. Different people had different ideas about whether Carlos Ghosn was a bad guy or a victim, but one thing was clear. His life had taken a turn that no one saw coming. The world watched every move he made as he went from an epic rise to an even more epic fall. Finally, everyone, we have reached the most exciting part of Carlos Ghosn's life. His unbelievable, hilarious, and hard-to-believe escape in December 2019. This was not just any escape. It was Bond meets Ocean's 11 with a touch of Houdini thrown in for good measure. Imagine that Ghosn is being closely watched while he is on bail and under house arrest in Japan. Carlos had other plans than to stay where he was and wait for his trial. They were a mix of former Special Forces members and top-secret agents, and they helped plan an escape that sounded like it came straight out of a spy movie. If you enjoy watching business stories, you should go through our channel's pre-existing videos. After doing in-depth research, we have brought some quality business stories to ponder upon some good and poor decisions taken by businessmen that changed their worlds. Moving back to the video. So what's the show-stopping moment? Ghosn was sneaked out of Japan in a box that was meant to hold music gear. That's right, you heard that right, a box. Now think, a man who used to fly private and eat in fancy restaurants being squished into a box like a determined roadie trying to get into a show. At Kansai International Airport, the box was put on a private jet without going through any security checks. He then left. Plans stop? For some reason, he was already a national hero in Lebanon, a country that doesn't have an extradition deal with Japan. The whole world let out a gasp when the news came out. Who does that? That would be Carlos Ghosn. When people in Japan found out he was gone, he was already enjoying his freedom while drinking coffee in Beirut. It wasn't long before Ghosn held a dramatic news conference where he called the Japanese legal system unfair, rigged, and set up to break him. He did this because he loves being in the spotlight. As he ran away, he said he wasn't guilty and that he did it to get away from what he called injustice. His escape became a legend right away. It was hard for people to tell if it was a thriller, a comedy, or a genius-level heist movie. There were lots of memes on the internet. Late-night comedians had a great time. And there were lots of conspiracy ideas. No matter how you felt about Carlos Ghosn, one thing was certain. His life had taken yet another dramatic and unbelievable turn, making him the most popular and creative former CEO in the world. After putting himself in hiding, Carlos Ghosn is now living in Lebanon in a way that is a bit different. Ghosn has used his newfound freedom to do what any embattled former CEO might do: set the record straight. He is now in a place where he is more of a folk hero than a wanted criminal, so he can't be extradited, or at least the way he saw it. He has written a book with all the juicy details, starring in a documentary telling his side of the story, and is often in the news. You know, just normal things that a billionaire on the run does. He says that Nissan leaders betrayed him because they didn't like his plans to make the two companies work together more. Ghosn says he was swayed by a system of justice that almost always leads to convictions. He calls the investigation a witch hunt. But not everyone believes in the salvation story. Some people think that Ghosn is the perfect example of corporate excess, a manager who flew too close to the sun on private jets that were paid for by questionable spending. Carlos Ghosn's story is both controversial and memorable. It doesn't matter if you see him as a rebel who was wronged by the system or as the ultimate example of greed that can't be stopped. When it comes to the auto business, Carlos Ghosn's name is legendary. This person didn't just run one ship. He turned Renault and Nissan into world powerhouses by taking over as CEOs of two big car companies. Under his direction, both companies went from being huge, failing businesses to lean, mean machines that made lots of money. Ghosn didn't stop there, though. Sorry. He was a real leader who pushed for electric cars before Tesla made it cool. He came up with the idea for the Nissan Leaf, which was one of the first mass-market EVs. This showed that he wasn't just ahead of the curve, he was making it. Truth be told, Ghosn's story isn't all sunshine and flowers. It's a business thriller with a moral lesson inside. Even though he was very successful, his unchecked ambition and desire for power finally took him into dangerous waters. He was a target because he made decisions without fear, which saved businesses. Many people accused him of wrongdoing with money, and he had to make a bold escape from Japan. This shows how dangerous power can be when it's not checked. For sure, Carlos Ghosn is more than just a boss. He is a whole person. It would be a great idea to make his story into a big-budget movie because it is so exciting and mysterious. For years to come, business schools will likely study his rise and fall, and people will still argue about whether he was a genius or a bad guy long after the dust settles. What is Ghosn going to do next? Well, if his life is any indication, don't expect what you expect. There's always something new going on with Carlos. What do you think might happen next with him? Tell us in the comments section below. If you enjoyed watching the video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to check out the existing business videos on our channel. Trust us, you won't regret it. See you soon in another video.